Prime Minister, can you comment on the claims about a recession
I think
and the economy?
Does he not know that we're going to see this and we're going to judge him accordingly? And to be quite honest, his behavior in the last year has changed my vote.
The Carney collapse continues. Even his own base is turning on him. It's Pierre Poilievre's 47th birthday today, and what was his birthday wish? He wanted to demolish the Liberal Party, and he did exactly that. I've never actually seen anything like it. He took on the entire Liberal bench, every single one of them. He took up the entire question period. He was a one-man show today. And Mark Carney was out of breath after a few back and forth exchanges. He actually had nothing else to say. So he allowed his backbenchers to take on Pierre. How did they do? We need a cleaning crew on aisle 4. Actually, aisle 6, 7, 8. You know what? Let's just shut down the entire store for a full disinfection. I have an epic report for you today. Before we start, I'm going to be interviewing the brand new Conservative leader in BC, Carrie Lynn Finlay, hopefully next week. We're just working out on when we're both available. But I want to hear from you. Do you have any questions you want to ask the brand new leader of the Conservative Party in BC? I'm hoping to add your questions to the interview, so go ahead and leave it in the bottom. But no more delays. Let's get into this report. We're going to start off with a brand new Patriot member, Sleepy Fields, at the top. And thank you to all my other Patriots out there. As an independent content creator, your support is much appreciated. We're going to start today's episode off with Mark Carney's base. They're turning on him because when they saw Mark Carney not respond to a simple question about a recession in Canada, as an economic genius, the guy that's supposed to save the Canadian economy refuses to answer a simple question to an economist. Let's take a look at the Liberal supporter collapse in real time, just in time for Pierre Poilievre's birthday.
That was absolutely horrifically dismissive, not only to the individual woman reporter, but to those of us looking at the camera.
Prime Minister, can you comment on the claims about a recession
I think
and the economy?
Does he not know that we're going to see this and we're going to judge him accordingly? And to be quite honest, his behavior in the last year has changed my vote.
That was the video?
Yeah.
I have no idea if he was purposely ignorant or not, but I don't know what his intentions were behind that video at all.
Do you feel like that's him avoiding the question?
I think so a little bit, unless he had somewhere to go, but definitely didn't look too good.
Flip is coming after data came out saying that Canada's in a technical recession.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
love the technical. Thomas Mulclair had said he loved the way they crab walked that in sideways, and I got to agree with that. In fact, out of 4 quarters, we've only had one with even a hintismal of growth. So we've been in a recession for a lot longer than just these last 2 quarters. And for those of us who live in the real world, we've been in a recession for many years.
Isn't that the truth? For those of us living in the real world, we're all suffering. These elites have no idea what Canadians are facing, and we see it every day. Luckily, Canadians are waking up. Don't you love to see it? You know the Liberals' high-speed train from Toronto to Quebec City? We just got a brand new receipt. By the way, not one little piece of track has been laid down for this. We have a receipt for $2.8 million for bonuses. 100% of Altos senior officials received a bonus. A bonus for what? Meetings and photo ops? I cannot believe this absurd amount of money that's being wasted. Before we go to the House of Commons and see Pierre Poilievre's birthday bash, it was a bash. Mark Carney gets asked his thoughts on Trump once again saying 51st state to Canada. His answer tells me that he realizes the constant rhetoric against the world's largest economy is backfiring. And with our economy in the tank right now, and we need to get the absolute best deal, whatever we could get out of the United States, or Canada is literally finished.
The US president is once again making his 51st state jab, and the US ambassador to Canada reshared it. Is this an ambassador that Canada can work with, or is it time to ask him to leave?
By the way, this is him on his hands and knees pleading, oh God. This is full capitulation by Mark Carney. After an entire year of attacking Donald Trump, now he knows that Canada needs this trade deal or we are literally cooked.
Look, the short answer is no to the second part of your question. And it's an administration that we have to work with. It's our biggest trading relationship. It's our biggest security relationship.
Don't you wish he thought about this when he was running his campaign, elbows up? I really wish he could look into the future and say, maybe this whole elbows up thing is going to backfire on us tremendously.
Many other relationships, and we work with that administration. We take the administration as it is and are working together on a number of areas, and I'll just underscore, and I know there are other questions, I'll just underscore that Minister LeBlanc and Madame Charette, une autre Madame Charette, our negotiator-in-chief, not negotiatrice en chef.
He always goes to French when he gets nervous and doesn't know what to say because he's busted here. By the way, Donald Trump liked Mark Carney at first, thinking that he could work with him. Then Mark Carney continued to bash him, allowing Doug Ford to do his attack ad, which soured the mood for Donald Trump and started calling Mark Carney Governor Carney. Then he does his Davos speech, and that infuriated Donald Trump. And now our economy is in the sewer. And Donald Trump says, don't worry, Mark Carney. You could just become the 51st state with that terrible economy that you have there. The respect for Mark Carney from Donald Trump is gone.
Chef, they were in Washington today working with the U.S. administration discussing our trading relationship.
Just to follow up on that,
Was that an answer? Yeah, he's not able to answer anything for anybody.
does the 51st state jab at this point impact those trade negotiations happening in Washington?
The president is an exceptionally active user of social media. You probably can chart his usage of it. It's only gone up in recent months, and we're not going to respond or react to everything that he posts. Thank you.
Question, Kiss.
But he did promise to Mark Carney that he would not do the 51st state comment ever again in respect of Mark Carney. And that ship has sailed. So no, Mark Carney, we're not accepting your response to this. Mark Carney currently has a problem. He currently has two bosses. One's on the other side of the planet, and one is just south of us. I don't know what happened to Elizabeth May today. She woke up on the conservative side of the bed, but she is still wearing that wonderful globalist pin. But I do have to agree with Elizabeth May on this one.
I would now add to that they should withdraw Bill C-22 because having attempted to come up with amendments to C-22, the spyware bill, if we could call it, I conclude that I don't think it can be salvaged, and it would be better if the government just withdrew it.
Wow, what is going on here? It must be Pierre Poilievre's birthday today. One of my absolute favorite MPs is Raquel Dancho, and she takes on the bimbo Melanie Jolie.
But I also want to talk about how the Americans recently launched a Section 301 investigation into Canada and other countries over failure to enforce forced labor. I'm sure you're very familiar with the forced labor concerns. It was, in fact, your government that passed a law to stop forced labor. But of course, we've heard from testimony at this committee and others that aluminum, for example, is being used, is using forced labor from the Uyghurs. I'm quite concerned, as I know others are, that this could jeopardize our trade negotiation with the Americans. Are you concerned?
We have applicable laws regarding forced labor. We have an entire regulatory process. We have a private members bill that passed a couple of years ago that is applicable, and we'll follow it.
But again, it seems to be that Uyghurs are being forced. There's forced labor here that are making these automobiles that you're willing importing into Canada.
Well, let's just take a look at Melanie Joly's statement. Here's Michael Ma saying that there is zero forced labor in China. It's unbelievable.
You claim about forced labor in Shenzhen. Have you witnessed this yourself? You witnessed forced, that's just a short answer.
If you haven't witnessed it yourself, it doesn't exist. Would you bet the Canadian economy on his statement? I don't think the US is buying what Michael Ma is selling. Back to Raquel.
And actually, that was one of the issues you cited 15 months ago of why you didn't want to do this. And I think I'll just quote Margaret McQuigg Johnston, who said that Canadians don't want to be driving cars made by slaves. Would you agree?
Of course.
Then why is it that you're allowing the imports of 49,000 cars that may in part be made by modern slave labor?
That's true.
So first and foremost, what we will do is when it comes to forced labors, we will address that through legislation, period. And my colleague that is in charge of public safety is in charge of the CBSA. And they need to do their job first.
They need to do their job. We're going to use legislation. I'm sure the US is going to be on side of this one.
Second, when it comes to protecting our auto workers, because I think that's your point, our auto workers are protected in this deal because there are three conditions for any joint ventures with Chinese auto companies. First, labor standards. Second, making sure that we protect our localized supply chains. And at the same time, third, it's the entire security of the software. So,
are you buying anything that Melanie Joly is selling? I don't even think that she believes what she's saying.
So we have an entire approach that is very holistic that will be protecting our auto workers while bringing in really good technologies. And at the same time, what we want is affordability. I know that the Conservative Party, as the Liberal Party, as the Bloc Québécois, we're all in favor of affordability. These cars will be affordable.
Thank you. I hope you're right, because as you know, the Americans have threatened a 25% tariff on all goods if they find the country such as ours is importing.
I think when it comes to the Americans, with your colleague, we don't
concerned that these actions are going to allow it to get worse. But I'll go to my last question.
Man, I love this woman. We got some great news. You know that streaming tax, the CRTC, 15%. So every time you watch Netflix or Disney Plus or any of those things, you would be charged additionally because that's how this whole thing works. Well, with the Conservatives' efforts, Mark Carney and the Liberals have backed right off.
Were in fact correct. The CRTC made a decision to triple the streaming tax from 5% to 15%, thereby making services like Disney Plus, Netflix, and Spotify more expensive to the Canadian consumer. The Liberals tried to mislead Canadians by claiming that it was out of their control. They could do nothing about it. Meanwhile, Conservatives continued to fight. We were told that we were making up a, quote, imaginary tax. The Liberals were content to sit back and do nothing as Canadians were burdened with yet another cost. Until Conservatives drew attention to the issue and pressure was applied, and thanks to our friends in the media, the message was out. But today, thanks to Conservatives holding them accountable, they are finally willing to admit their flaw. In fact, I brought a little show and tell. First one here, May 28th, the title reads, Liberals say they can't overturn decision tripling streamers' CanCon contributions. And then an update on June 3rd, the title reads, Ottawa calls for review of CRTC decision on streamers' CanCon contributions. Complete change. In a news release from the Department of Canadian Heritage, the government stated that the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture would direct the CRTC to review its recent decision. They gave this instruction because, quote, the CRTC's new requirements would impose new costs on the companies providing these services, which could ultimately fall on Canadian consumers through their higher prices.
Wow, it must be Pierre Poilievre's birthday because Pierre's been saying that the cost is going to fall on Canadians, making all of this stuff cost more. So you got to remove it. Well, the Liberals have listened. but it comes at a catch. The $600 million that they promised to prop up Canadian content is still going to go through. So instead of getting the money from this new tax, they're just going to bill the taxpayers. So we're going to have to pay for it anyway. This Liberal government continues to flip-flop under Mark Carney's leadership. We have Mark Carney here, March 31st, claimed that there is in fact forced labor in China. Thank you, RMC86, for this one.
But the current prime minister would not say if he believes there is forced labor in China.
There is evidence of child labor around the world. There are parts of China that are higher risk. Canada has a very strong legislative regime against forced labor in supply chains. We don't want any element of forced labor coming in goods and services, and we want to use our influence to eliminate this practice of forced labor and child labor.
Do you think that Donald Trump doesn't see Mark Carney's flip-flop saying, yep, there's forced labor in China? And then he's like, we have legislation for that. We have influence in Canada. We could tell the second largest economy on the planet, you can't do that or we're not going to trade with you and we won't buy your 49,000 EV vehicles. Now, the birthday bash for the birthday boy. This started off like a Saturday night comedy show as Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre exchanged jokes.
The group of 20 nations are all faced with the same tariffs, wars, and energy prices. Yet 19 of the G20 countries are not in recession. That's true. One country is in recession. Will the leader of the only G20 country in recession please stand up?
That is not a question, it's a request. We'll go on to the next question.
Had 2 consecutive quarters of shrinking GDP, the only country in the G20 that can say that. We've lost 112,000 jobs in the first 3 months of this year. And that has left our country with a quarter of its people in food insecurity. Will the Prime Minister tell us whether we are in a recession or a technical recession?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first may I wish the Leader of the Opposition a very happy birthday. Secondly, I'll even give him his question back, Mr. Speaker. Petit cadeau à vous.
A little gift for you.
What this government is doing is putting in place the foundations of an economy that will be stronger, more resilient, more independent. We are seeing, in the face of U.S. tariffs, in the face of global uncertainty, in the face of higher energy prices, we are seeing business investment accelerating. We are seeing wages growing twice the rate in the United States. We are seeing this country put in place the conditions for sustained prosperity.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate his birthday wishes. I am 47. But that's 50 with inflation. But what I really want as a Christmas gift from a birthday gift from this Prime Minister is someone who will actually answer the question. And Canadians deserve answer, not misinformation. We've had 2 consecutive declining quarters of GDP growth. We are the only country in the G7 that can say that. The only country in the G7 that has seen the economy shrink in 3 of the last 4 quarters, the only country whose GDP is smaller than it was a year ago when the Prime Minister took office. So, will he tell us, are we in a recession or a technical recession? Which is it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's very painful on someone's birthday when you give them a present and they give it back to you. Mr. Speaker, I'll do a little research for the Leader of the Opposition. If you'd like to ask the C.D. Howe Institute, they know the answer to that question. If they'd like to ask the OECD, which today
predicts that Canada will have the second strongest economy in the G7 this year and next. That is the answer, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
It's the only promise that he made during the elections. And it's the same thing he said a few days ago. But after he said that, we saw that Canada is the only country in the G20 that is in recession. So that means that Canadians are skipping meals. There are 112,000 Canadians who've lost their jobs. We have the second worst unemployment rate in the G7. Can the Prime Minister stand up and answer a very simple question? Are we in a recession or just a technical recession? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, we have to correct the official record of Parliament. I made a number of promises during the election campaign. The first was to save Canadians from the terrible policies of the Leader of the Opposition. Second, the policies that this government has put in place are allowing us to create a more resilient, more prosperous, stronger, a more sustainable economy and a more independent economy. That's what we're doing.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
Delivered was a recession. He promised he'd have the fastest growing economy in the G7. He's delivered the only recession in the G7. And while Canadians line up around the street to try and collect from the food bank, this Prime Minister spends $200,000 on in-flight meals for just 3 flights, including $4,200 on creme brulee, $593 on luxury Normandy buttercups. No wonder he's so out of touch with the people whose jobs he's killed. So can he tell us, will he ground his plane and stand up and tell us, are we in a recession?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I will tell this House is what I hear from international investors and businesses when we travel. What I heard in New York is that Canada is the most attractive destination for foreign infrastructure investment. What I hear from major global investors who want to invest more than $100 billion in this country, what we are already seeing, which is foreign investment that's running in this country at twice the rate of any other G7 economy. That is
Leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the multinational corporations that he is profiting are very pleased with the way things are going. As for the Canadian people who are living under his recession, it's another story. They don't have $200,000 meals on 3 private flights, Mr. Speaker. They don't have tax havens so that they can shelter from the high tax burden he imposes on everyone else. He can't even bring himself to utter the word recession, even though the textbook definition tells us that he's the only Prime Minister, the only leader in the G20 who's created one. So will he stand in the House and answer the question, are we in a recession or a technical recession?
That's it for today's report. And you're not going to believe this. Pierre went on for another 30 minutes and just went back and forth. But Mark Carney, he was finished after that. He never stood back up. It's really nice to see that Canadians are looking at Mark Carney and realizing he was the wrong choice. If there was an election today, they wouldn't be voting for Mark Carney. And it's because instead of facing Canadians and saying, hey, we are in a recession and here's the plan to get us out, he decides to hide from the camera and refuses to say that we are actually in a recession. I look forward to providing you these reports. I'll see you on the next report.